Not all aiming is done with a mouse and keyboard, of course. Sometimes you end up doing with your two thumbs, with a controller in hand, and, well, sometimes you're playing Halo or Call of Duty. This time, though, this past weekend, we most certainly were playing Halo. And, well, if you were unfamiliar what was happening over in LA, the LVT Pro League was having its $50,000 conclusion as far as their tournament is concerned. All of Halo's best before we end up having HCS Charlotte in their World Championship were in attendance to play this double elimination tournament in all best of sevens. And well, FaZe were in attendance. This is one of the better teams that we have throughout the entirety of the HCS season. They were slotted up going up against Complexity in this match number 1. They were pretty much favored to be dominating Complexity. Complexity coming in towards this one have had a lackluster season. They ended up taking the reverse sweep versus FaZe. That Lattice King of the Hill then flipped up for everything within their favor to be able to then slot up against the world's #1 currently of Shopify Rebellion. Other round 1 matchup had SSG losing to Optic Gaming, which meant that they were going up against Envy in their next semifinal matchup. And here's how things started to get a little bit wayward as far as Envy is concerned. Envy, a very beloved organization in here, as their coach, of course, is a colleague of ours here. Big shout out to Thug Nasty. I'm sure that his blood pressure was absolutely at an all-time peak as far as this series is concerned, mostly because of how this map 7 did conclude. Slayer is a fickle mistress, and when you have yourself a distinct advantage, it's very hard to claw your way back from it, and that's exactly what happened here. Envy just get completely dismantled as far as that final map is concerned, which meant that they went down to the lower bracket, and then they had to go up against FaZe Clan. FaZe Clan, like I was talking about previously, going up against Complexity, want to make the lower bracket run. Watch that game clock. 3 seconds remaining here at the end. Not enough time to be able to fly across the map to be able to get the bomb to be armed, which meant that FaZe were going to be able to take that, or Envy were, excuse me, and then forcing it into a map number 7. But that's not the only time when the game clock came into effect. 12 seconds remaining in a Slayer. You got to reach 50 kills before the game clock reaches 0. It's a 1-kill lead for FaZe. 5 seconds remain. They're all camping back inside PD because they can do the quick math. 1 kill comes through. It's immediately traded, and then again traded at the end. From 1 kill down to 1 second, FaZe Clan take map 7, and they eliminate Envy there at top 8 at the Halo Pro League. Commiserations to all of Envy, though I saw on social media they had themselves a very fun championship Sunday that did not involve playing Halo, which meant that FaZe was going up against SSG after SSG got FaZe's trade on Complexity in that previous lower round, and thus setting up our championship Sunday bracket. Optic, Shopify Rebellion up there in the upper final. Down in the lower semifinal, you're going to have FaZe going up against SSG. Some very tailored names as far as HCS is concerned, but the Championship Sunday was kind of setting up for what we all expected out of those 14.
Yeah, and I mean, it was absolute cinema. I mean, this was going on way past even when I was trying to watch all the games. I was trying to watch some of them. Of course, that West Coast time was getting me out here on the East Coast, but those grand finals, Shopify Rebellion, Optic Gaming, this would come out to an absolute banger of a match.
Yeah, the way the Championship Sunday did start off there with lower semifinals would be FaZe going up against Space Station Gaming. And the tournament felt like it was lasting forever because, again, everything was a best of 7. I want to say that there was maybe 2 or 3 series that didn't go map 7, and this was going to be one of them. Championship Sunday setting ourselves up for an absolute lovely trophy. FaZe Clan was going to be the first team in attendance there, trying to get their gunny swarm for Space Station Gaming, who have been making themselves a very equal run as far as the lower bracket is concerned. 4-0 versus Complexity the day previous, going in towards the lower semifinals here versus Space Station, constantly coming down to the clock. These two teams incredibly competitive between each other, but 2 seconds remain would end up meaning that FaZe were able to take the first 2 games. But then here in the capture the flag is where Space Station really started to come to life, at least their slays, but not enough for the objective. FaZe Clan, they're going to be able to sit there rather pretty, run back-to-back flags and captures to be able to tie things up and then forcing things into overtime. But Space Station were able to get the flag captured, a pretty Herculean effort out of them to set themselves up at least with a map win. Over towards the lattice we go here for the oddball, and Space Station continuously trying to keep up with the slaying prowess that we had on the opposite side. 43 and 36 out from Stellar at this moment in time, comparatively to the 40 and 39 out of Penguin. Each one of these members for FaZe, you give them a moment of time, they were able to have themselves an electric point of opportunity to be able to walk away with a multi-kill, if not being able to walk away with an abundance of objective time. That's exactly what you want when it comes down to oddball. Space Station, we're more than aware of that. Falcata trying to play his life, but it was not worth at the end of the day. As FaZe Clan were able to not only just take that series, but to be able to eliminate Space Station down there in top 6, and thus setting up what is going to be a winners finals match. Nobody was surprised. Shopify Rebellion going up against Optic again.
Yeah, and take a look at this. Shopify Rebellion, Optic Gaming. Shopify up over Optic Gaming on this map number 2. They're looking really good going into this, but the listen in, we can only get a little bit louder. The comms between these teams are absolutely amazing. Shopify going up 2, but here we are. Optic Gaming going to tie it up in this best of 7 for 2-2 right now. This game was absolutely electric from both of these teams. They're setting up for some amazing games on this championship Sunday.
Everybody was firing again. This is the third to last LAN before we end up getting towards the end of the HCS season. You have this, you have Charlotte, and then you have Worlds, and that is it. Whatever is happening in between is the best practice you could possibly imagine. Shopify Rebellion trying to close out the series here on the Aquarius bomb. Last shot, 21-13. A massive kill comes through. A team wipe soon to follow. Optic spawning inside a blue fridge. Can only hope that the nades somehow land to stop Frosty from planting and arming the bomb. Would not be the case, even though Optic would be on that point first. Shopify Rebellion would come back in at the end and force out a map 7 Slayer. Chris, they lost the other 2 Slayers in that series, but on live fire, they were able to win 49-46, and thus setting Optic down to the lower finals to face up against FaZe.
Yeah, FaZe Clan starting off on that Fortress capture flag, as you can see, going in the favor of Optic 3-0 on that, so they start off with that game number 1. Going into this, and then we're heading on to the recharge Slayer. Again, these Slayers, as you say, can be a fickle mistress, and both these teams going back and forth.
And Optic, again, just absolutely dispatching FaZe Clan. If you watched what happened at SLC, the previous LAN event for Halo, you'd be unsurprised to know that your top 3 would be Shopify Rebellion in the winners bracket, beating Optic in that winners finals, FaZe in lower finals, and then Optic coming in and then absolutely getting the work done. Versus some of his old teammates of Formal, with Lucid and Trippy on the opposite side, just making sure that they do not see themselves at grand finals. Trippy had himself a really good performance here as far as that map is concerned. For map 4 would be the only map that FaZe were able to win, would be that oddball, or I'm sorry, the live fire. It would be on the live fire, but still, man. Optic, you just feel like that every single point that they're on the screen can be the best team in the world for Halo, until they go up against Shopify Rebellion. Like, this is just such clean work versus FaZe.
Yeah, it was. The podium finish, FaZe number 3. They take them. Look at that. Still a really good finish for FaZe going that. But on to the grand finals after Optic takes down FaZe. And here it is, setting up Shopify Rebellion versus Optic, starting on that last King of the Hill here. This is it. This is for the LVT Pro League finals. Best of 7, and both of these teams had an amazing run getting to these grand finals.
No one was surprised. Grand finals between Optic and Shopify Rebellion has always been up between these 2 teams in a LAN environment the entire year. First map would go Shopify's way, completely putting to rest that Optic off of playing previous 2 best of 7s. We're going to come into this one way too hot. Shopify Rebellion showcasing why they were here on the winner side.
Yes, and on to the Aquarius Slayer. Again, both of these teams have shown really good games on the Slayer itself, but Shopify Rebellion kind of just on another level here once again. Cycle there, 14-7, moves over to Frosty. Both of these players just absolutely banging out kills. Royal, though, with that 15 kills at the end of that game number 2.
Royalty was locked into this grand finals, man, going in towards this map number 3, 21-11, able to at least find the snipe onto the one for the killing spree. And when you control the sniper rifle, you just feel like that anything can go your way on Forbidden. Just these longer lines of cross angles being held, flags being run by last shot, scot-free down underneath. It's a 3-0 lead for Shopify Rebellion versus Optic. And I was DMing Eli, who was on site casting this entire event, trying to figure out, like, hey, man, what's going on? I thought Optic were going to be a little bit better, and everybody there in event thought that Optic were going to fight back a little bit more valiantly. And in towards this live fire oddball, we finally got to see that. Again, Renegade trying to put his team on the back, trying to get multi-kills with power weapons, but Shopify Rebellion far as their teamwork is concerned, were always right there to keep themselves close enough to maybe close things out in a 4-0 fashion, but Optic within this oddball were able to take it 2-1 thanks to Renegade's efforts.
Yes, and then we move on to game number 5 here. On this Recharge Slayer, again, both of these teams just really going back and forth once again. But this time, Shopify Rebellion just would not be denied this grand finals win. Again, on this Slayer, they have looked so good. Look at it there. Look at that final kill. Just crazy. I mean, Shopify Rebellion, amazing, especially going into this. Looks so good coming into the
Yeah, they really did, right? There you see Royal too, just like standing up, just like pointing out his monitor. It will be your LVT Pro League champions. The team that hosted it there for the home turf. Can't really say that it was home crowd. There was no crowd. Everybody was locked inside their own booth. So big shout out to Shopify Rebellion for not only putting on a very lovely event alongside LVT, but also for their team to be able to come out as the champion,